Right. So, let's just bring the video up here. It's half an hour long, which is a good size, a good decent chunk of a Q&A. What am I hoping will be asked and answered? Well, first of all, I hope that like the usual sort of questions people ask when they first learn about this game. Fun dog must pay. It is a fun dog. Well, you can like what? Are they supposed to be? The pattern is it like lungs or something? I don't know. Can you? What's going on here? Yeah, I'm hoping that they've sort of ignored the slightly more new to the game sort of questions that I've seen pop up in the Forever Winter Discord for this Q&A. Things like, will there be an art book? They've mentioned several times already. Yes, there's going to be an art book. So I hope we get more of a clear indication as to what's to come, either in the next patch or in regards to setting out some sort of roadmap for the game. I think that would be pretty good. So they're the things that I'm holding on hope for getting some info on. Obviously things like bug fixes and general polish and more content being added. I think that goes without saying, but information, like actual... You heard parts of it yesterday, it was okay. Okay, well, let's see. Fingers crossed.
How does Lourdes manage to smoke 15 packs in 10 seconds?
Yes, perfect question. Off... Yeah, I completely forgot. Completely forgot about that. Yes. Please, a bit more variety with that quest.
Oh,
Yeah, no, if
man.
anything... Sorry,
I
go
love
ahead.
these photos.
Oh, yeah. They definitely highly memeable for sure. Yeah, so I mean, it's the joy of cybernetics, right? Like, you need way more nicotine to actually get even remotely close to a buzz. I remember Masamune Shiro experimented with that a little bit, but Joe was talking about like how much whiskey you actually have to consume as a cyborg to have like any kind of alcoholic effects, which was basically a bathtub worth of like the finest whiskey. But that's why his whole pad is decked out in Ghost in the Shell 2, like covered in whiskey bottles, because that's how the homie rolls. So yeah, that was the crux. Is just that one cigarette's not going to cut it, so he pretty much just has to mainline that shit.
Yeah, I have nothing to add other than, man, whoever drew these pictures makes me smile.
That makes sense.
No, it's brilliant. I love
it. I accept that as an answer for like the sheer quantity of cigarettes that Lardos needs. However, just get him something different as well. I'd happily start collect whiskey for him or something like that on top of the cigarettes.
Might we get a better look at the lore of the game? Lourdes' text is cool, but I'd love to get a better feel for exactly what's been happening in the universe and what more of the world is like. Semi-related follow-up question. Currently the game sits at 5 factions. Are we likely to see more factions as time goes on, or is this all there is?
Definitely likely to see more factions as time goes on. If anything, one of the things we'd like to explore is like some of these subsets within these factions, and also a lot of the detachments that you guys are seeing right now are the equivalent of kind of like the fringes of some of these factions. A lot of these aren't, like frontline heavy hitters, and we're going to be seeing more of those guys, specifically for Eruska and Eurasia. They've got a lot of very, very, very scary assault units incoming for sure. So we're definitely planning on pushing on that front as well. And then of course, like as we discussed before, some of the breakaway factions as well. So like different pirate groups that have basically just made themselves little fiefdoms in different sections of the city, and kind of how they're exploring the conflict. So yeah, long story short, there's definitely going to be a lot more variety on that front, and we're really excited to push.
Okay, I love all of that. The idea of sub-factions, subsets, breakaway splinter groups. Looking forward to see what they come up with there. A little concerned about them saying that, having like scary frontline troops coming in, because what are we talking, like worse than the grabbers here? Because holy crap, like even the cyborgs, like when they're sprinting at you, especially the ones that can that sort of like run on all fours, they're pretty creepy. So yeah, looking really intrigued by what they come up with for that, but definitely looking forward to the sub-factions and splinter groups that they come up with.
Yeah, for sure. And I think every time we add a faction or reveal a faction is probably a better way to put it. Like, I want that to be meaningful. I mean, we all do. Like, it's not just, hey, now there's the green faction. It should be have a little more thought to it than that. So that's part of the process as well, if you want to look under the hood.
Yeah, I mean, there's that. And the other component, too, is that we're going to be adding a lot more, shall we say, dialogue opportunities to the hub. And we're really excited about that as well.
Okay.
So, stay frosty.
I love the game and its atmosphere, but there are clearly some
Big
transparent
green.
problems in spite of the amazing progress and game you guys have so far. Red Baron banner is only one of them, where it's not a guaranteed drop and players claiming the box either from clearly some.
Excited about that as
I
well.
missed the first part of that question.
Stay frosty.
I love the game and its atmosphere, but there are clearly some transparent problems in spite of the amazing progress and game you guys have so far. Red Baron banner is only one of them, where it's not a guaranteed drop and players claiming the box either flies off the map or doesn't spawn at all. How do you plan on addressing such problems, especially those pertaining to older quests?
I feel like this question, it sort of just fits into it's a bug and it'll be fixed. It's like that quest, I forget the name of it, where you go to the what's it called, the Scrapyard Nexus, pull the lever, and a box is then supposed to appear in Scorched Enclave. At the moment, the box doesn't appear, so it's clearly bugged. It'll be the same for this. Bug fix.
It's an economic decision. Why not raise the drop chances significantly, then reduce rewards? When can we expect to see a fix or update on these quests? Another issue is long-term progression. With the prestige and gun system in place, it does feel
Follow the dots, that's the one.
as if Scabs is missing something else to their arsenal. Do you plan on implementing an armor or gear system for the Scabs? What about customability? Is that a possible prospect for the future? Thanks for all your hard work. I'm still loving the game. I believe in the potential, and most of all, I'm loving the art design.
There's even screenshots of like work in progress skill trees, or like placeholder skill trees or ideas for different skills to have. So again, this is I feel like they've already answered this question. They also talked about cybernetics as well, so being able to chop off your arm and stick on, as an example, a robot arm to help with like strength or aiming or something, or robotic legs to help you with sprinting maybe. So I feel like this question's already been answered a few times before.
For the kind words. Jeff G can dig into this one heavy, but yeah, long story short, we're definitely looking at expanding a lot of the core scav systems and a lot of other vectors for progression, and some of which are going to tie directly into the new meta that we're working on unveiling shortly. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting year for sure, and we're super pumped. It's really just been the challenge of making sure, as mentioned before, that a lot of our core systems are where they need to be. As I've also mentioned before, but it's basically we want to get them to like where they're super, super crispy, so that when we start adding more science fiction weaponry, we start adding, additional upgrades, both for the hub and other components as well, that it's all tied into like a crispy foundation. And so that's kind of like our major focus right now. Jeff G, obviously, I know you have more thoughts on this.
Oh, absolutely. I think you covered most of the meta stuff and all of that really well. I think one thing I will say in terms of quest drop rates and rewards, there's two different high-level categories. You could think of that as either just straight up bugs or tuning. Like, I'm actually okay with some of the rarity, a lot of the rarity that's like by design. Is that perfect? No. Will we adjust it? Yes. But every quest is not going to be accessible within a single run if you happen to bring enough ammo to drop everybody to get the thing or to push the button or whatever the thing's asking you to do, right? Like now if there's a bug, which has been the case a couple times, we're like, oh, it'll never drop. Like that's our bad and we
Yeah.
suck and we'll fix it. But if it's like 1 out of 100, that's actually rarely an economy decision. It is sometimes, but more of a hey, I've done this, or I need your help to help me with this. You and whoever you're playing with. So we'll keep looking at that. But like a lot of that is done by design. Just the way the game is like if it actually can get boring if it's always get quest drops, complete quest. I did my thing today. So what I recommend if you're frustrated is always try to have 1 of your 3 quests be something you perceive as hard or rare or
Yep.
whatever, frustrating, and then give yourself the dopamine hit with the other 2 with quests that you can achieve, and then work to that 3rd one while the other ones are scratching that itch.
I'd completely agree with that. For a long time, I had the corpse tank component quest in my quest list because I run shaman mainly, so I had no way of destroying a corpse tank. And then the same with the Rat King residue as well. So yeah, I kind of agree with that. You shouldn't always be able to just pick up a quest and then go and complete it. It's why I liked the Follow the Dots quest so much, because it forces you to do 2 different runs on 2 different maps. It's just that unfortunate at the moment you can't actually complete it.
How will giants work? We all know we are barely scratching the surface of what will be in game. My biggest question is, how will the absolute giants work? Like Big Green, will they just be unmoving props like the European Titan on Ashen Mesa and Scorched Enclave? Will they be NPCs? Will there be unique maps for each faction's biggest units to fight it out, etc.?
That's a really good question. So right now we're experimenting with some, mini game opportunities and, looking at like, different examples of where, like some of like the heavier unit gameplay was really, really cool. Realistically, it'll probably be like module destruction is how like the players can kind of interact with some of these larger guys. And of course, some of the factions will be using, very heavy specific weaponry that's built for taking down these units. And so you can interfere with that as well if you want to tip the scales in one direction or the other. I think that they need to be more than just like, a stage where you're just like doing a battle in some rooms on a Titan and then the Titan like trips and then falls. Like that's not really our jam. But by the same token, it's, it's definitely not at like the very top of the priority list. And we want to make sure that if we do it right. And it's not just window dressing. So yeah, it's not a lot of info on that, obviously, but we're definitely happy to share some of the prototypes.
That's more info than I was expecting.
Yeah. This might even frustrate more than help, but like on the one extreme, you could just make them hit point buckets, which is boring AF.
No.
Or we can do the completely bespoke level that like Miles was kind of alluding to, and that's expensive, and you do it once and go, yay, never play it again. We're finding with those prototypes, Miles,
put C4 middle ground on the reactor, and then it blows up, and then you get the cutscene, and then you get a QTE maybe. No, I'm not really interested in that.
Press X.
Yeah, exactly.
Water utility. Is it possible we can use water as a resource to be spent, not just hoarded, like spending water for certain upgrades or purchasing high-end weapons, perhaps even for crafting?
You hit the nail on the head. Stay tuned. It's definitely going to play a big role in the upcoming meta updates as well. That's probably too much of a spoiler, but yeah, we're working on a highly requested community feature and adjustment in a couple different vectors related to that. But we also are looking at you being able to share it with your homies as well. And I think we're pretty happy with some of the latest, and the idea did come from the community, which is cool. I'll leave that to you guys' imagination. Nightmare knows what I'm talking about.
I'll say this. As of when we're recording this, we're having a meeting tomorrow, and this is part of that subject matter. So that will probably have happened by the time you're seeing this. So stay tuned.
What is Valentine's Day like?
Yeah, again, like we sort of knew there was going to be changes to the water system going forward. I already like the stuff that they've implemented with the water system since launch. The fact that it's not just instant death if you're out of water with the water thief raids, and now you've got the water bots, but also the turrets, because the water bots have the potential to bring Water Thieves to your base for a raid. So I'm already enjoying it from that point of view. But yeah, definitely interesting to see what they will do to improve it going forward.
In the Forever Winter universe, do the soldiers get a letter from their families and chocolate that is definitely not some type of industrial waste that happens to taste just like chocolate?
So it would be something more along the lines of like trophy sharing. So like, this is a severed head that I've had in a freezer for quite some time. Happy birthday, something along those lines, which is like, I know these guys have been giving you a lot of grief, so here's a necklace made out of human ears. That's probably a little bit more the FW spirit, right?
That's
So
right.
that's how they roll.
You make me want to add a Dear John wall to the inner.
Totally.
Hello to the whole Fun Dog Studios team. I love the Forever Winter, which is an excellent game. My question is, when are we going to get a new weapon as well as a new weapon class? And when are we going to have the Yoruska vendor, who is the only vendor missing? Thanks again for these great games, and good luck to the whole Fun Dog Studio team.
Thank you so much for the kind words. You know, it's funny. Like, the sad part is we actually have a measured shit ton.
My theory is the Ruskin vendor is going to be some sort of cybernetics vendor. That's my current theory. Might be totally wrong. I just thought it sort of made sense, especially with Lordos being a Ruskin, and he has been changed so much. I was thinking that maybe throwable explosives like I am expecting at some point as well. Like they say with not even throwable explosives, like things that can be used to distract patrols or anything really. So like a throwable noisemaker. But yeah, it's like proper grenades. I mean, you've got the grenade launcher at the moment, which is great. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, something that doesn't actually take up a weapon slot in itself. Throwable, like throwable explosives, flashbangs, stun grenades, noisemakers, things like that. But yeah, with the Ruskin vendor, I'm kind of leaning towards I expect him to be something tech based or cybernetics based, but we'll see.
Of like new guns modeled, so it's really just making sure that their like animation set is hooked up for every single variation of character, because obviously Bagman has like really long arms, whereas like Scav Girl's a little bit smaller, so making sure that that all works. And that ironically actually ties into some of the overhauls and updates we're doing to the weapon system anyway. So yeah, it's kind of like one of those like Jurassic Park, like hold on to your butts moments, where once we flip the switch, then you know we're in new territory. But at the same time, I think you guys are going to dig some of the new stuff for sure. And yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it as well. I'm really glad that you're digging the game. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. We actually
I've never played Bagman, so I don't know what his grips are like, but I remember when it first launched. Like if you went into aim down sights, some of the guns just weren't lining up with your hand, so your hand would be covering half the screen, so you couldn't actually properly see what you were shooting at. But yeah, if he's got longer arms than everybody, then yeah, that'll take a little bit of work to to get right.
actually deferred. We had a handful of firearms that we decided not to release because of some of the fundamental stuff we're working on. We want everything to be based on, I mean, to be blunt, like a better foundation. So we're focusing on that. But there's all sorts of goodies that are in the pipe.
Shoulder swap? We need it, please.
It's on the list.
There's all sorts of goodies that are in the pipe.
Shoulder swap? We need.
What is she saying?
Better foundation. So we're focusing on that. But there's all sorts of goodies that are in the pipe.
Shoulder swap?
I have no idea what word she just said. Something swap?
Blunt, like a better foundation. So we're focusing on that. But there's all sorts of goodies that are in the pipe.
Shoulder swap?
Golder swap. I mean, that's kind of what Appearing. Maybe the answer will give clues. Shoulder swap, maybe. Let's
Blunt like a better foundation, so we're focusing on that. But there's
shoulder
all sorts of
swap. Yes,
goodies that are in the
for
pipe.
yeah.
Shoulder swap?
Yeah.
We
yeah.
need it, please.
Yeah.
It's on the list, and ideally, it's on the list for this
Yes.
month. So I don't know. Ask the coders, right? There you go.
How done do you consider AI behavior? AI is pretty decent so far, but there are some things that just
AI is pretty decent so far. So, I don't know what game they're playing. The AI is manageable so far, I would say. Definitely needs some work. Like I saw, it was a couple of months ago. Camera, yeah, shoulder swap, yeah. I saw a couple of months ago that there was a post on their Instagram or something. They were like looking for. Or was it a post on their Instagram, or did somebody find it and post it on Discord? I can't remember, but they were looking to hire a technician who specialised in sort of AI and things like that. Some bad AI, but at least it's better with the tighter detection. Yes, yeah, that hotfix was a godsend, a rat king send. But yeah, I would not call the AI decent because it doesn't really do much other than wander around, set path. Oh, is there an enemy within a certain radius? Yes, okay, shoot that enemy, and then continue. You know, they're not like going for cover or using different tactics or approaching enemies in different ways. Like, I mean, you look at the tanks, for example. The tanks barely have any AI. This question is more like the animations in the background and the in between. Right, okay. Well, let's listen.
just make it feel artificial, cold, or unnatural somehow. Although it's hard to articulate.
It's on the list,
That's the beginning of
and
the question.
ideally, it's on the list for this month. So I don't know. Ask the coders, right? There you go.
How done do you consider AI behavior? AI is pretty decent so far, but there are some things that just make it feel artificial, cold, or unnatural somehow. Although it's hard to articulate. They also move at like 4 frames per second when further than 100 meters, but I guess that's just a performance compromise. And of course, the getting spawned on top of still happens sometimes. Presumably the AI's behavior and performance impact is still very much work in progress and or limited by compute. Vast majority of people have 6+ core high-end CPUs these days. I hate to see the game's AI get too nerfed in service of low-spec machines, although I realize that that will be controversial and make me an elitist, so I'm sorry in advance. Or perhaps an AI fidelity setting, so people with a lot of compute can go wild, but older machines aren't totally left out. We do it with graphics fidelity all the time. Maybe AI behavior can be this way in the forever winter. Thanks. Love the game. Enjoying the journey of watching it in progress.
Actually,
What the hell were they talking about? I just want to see what they answer.
that's something we were just discussing, is exposing that as a user option, because you're exactly right. Like if you ever see an AI way off in the distance becoming like an aha video, sorry, I'm old. Yeah, that's something we could scale, and then I think
Spawn radius up and outer limit to NPC spawns. I mean, like yes, and like, so they've talked about previously. They've talked about there will be ways in which the NPCs come into the map, not necessarily just boop appearing. Obviously, if they are going to be just appearing out of thin air, then it needs to be done sort of in a way that it's not within player line of sight. Like if you look at like a big open area like Ashen Mesa, you're gonna see the enemy spawn in the distance. I don't think it requires. I don't think the game will require a high-end PC to run once it becomes much more refined and optimized. so I don't see them dialing it down. And then I don't know what he was talking about, how it was going to impact the AI with spawn locations. Like, what? Maybe I've misunderstood what it was that they were actually asking, but from that, AI spawn rates, at like animations in the distance, that's all stuff that will come with optimization anyway. AI is CPU limited, but that's not the issue. Except that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like the AI is not the way it is at the moment because a bog standard CPU won't be able to run it. It's simply the issue with it at the moment is that it's just not good. You know, like it can be improved upon. The GFX is the main performance issue. Exactly, yeah. So I don't know why he was bringing AI into it. AI will continue to get worked on. And as you say, GFX is the main performance issue at the moment.
It should, I mean, I need to ask engineers, but exposing that to the user, like if you want to set that to max and your machine can handle it, I'm all for allowing that. We just got to put that in and make that happen.
100%. And to expand on that, yeah, so it's using this thing called like a tick throttle system, which is basically it's scaling it accordingly because, as I mentioned before, like originally it was just full sim, which is this is the set army that's in progress at any given time, and they just rock and roll. And it works really well on like the highest NPCs on the planet. It's fucking sick. Like I love it. I actually wish we could go back to that, but we can't. So it's essentially the compromise there. But yeah, no, I mean we're definitely exploring some of the levers that'll let some of the heavier hardware, shall we say, mess with that. But it's interesting too. Like on the PC, elitist comment, it's funny. It's like the AR argument, right? Which is like you have your Vietnam era, like M16, and then you have your fucking like modern like DevGru freaking like I had Sig tune it myself, some variation of madness or like the 416, and it's just like for me, we all like shooting stuff, so I'm trying to make sure that it like fits and it's functional for like the most people that it can be. But by the same token, it's like, yeah, like if you have everything turned to max, then I would say fuck it. I mean, that's how I play Skyrim. I don't really care if my frame rate drops. Like I'm gonna go for like the absolute max cap. Same for Fallout mods. Like, I mean, that's what I signed up for. So I'm in it to win it on that front. But yeah, it's a tough battle. And then to answer your other question in terms of like how done is the artificial intelligence, I would say not even fucking close. Actually, Jeff G's been going through like a heavy tuning pass and like the awareness system so that they should be like much more responsive, but also the feedback to the player should be much more solid as well. So yeah, there's so many heavy updates on that, especially for some of like the melee units. That's definitely something that we're pushing on this month as well.
Yeah,
I want that Orgamech like the melee units. That's definitely something that we're pushing on this month as well.
Yeah,
I want that Orgamech to do what the fuck he's actually supposed to do. And Fiona's done some really, really cool animations to facilitate some of those new movesets. I want some of that shit to be a surprise, obviously, but yeah, that's definitely something we're really hyped about. So, while I appreciate it being okay, like functional, I feel like standards have dropped so much since like even some of the OG stuff that we grew up with. So I'm hoping, like I'm putting my hands together and praying that we can get to at least to some of that. So we definitely want to push it a lot further. Same for CQB and flanking and grenades and all that other fun stuff. But that's in this bucket over here. But for the bucket directly in front of us, it's making sure the fundamentals are super crisp.
Yeah, so flanking CQC grenades, that's sort of a step up from how the AI currently is, and the current AI needs work before you even begin to get to that level. And all this, like that question, and the basic answer is yes, we're gonna have sliders so that you can push your computer up to max settings if you so wish. I mean, technically there are already things like that in the game, and yes, AI is getting worked on. I don't like. I thought that would have been a given. Didn't really need to ask the excuse me, devs. Will there be an option to either increase performance or increase like the load on my computer for running the game? And also, will there be improvements to the current AI? It's like, yeah, yes.
Yeah, for sure. I think like the AI design and decision making, like that'll never be done, in my humble opinion. Like I always went, oh, I wish they did this. And if you're really curious in terms of that perf, there's two different things at play: is how often they can decide and what choices they have.
You think it will introduce issues with lower AI settings, making it too easy? So I don't think, yeah, like, I don't think the, I mean, I would look at it maybe. You would probably tie that into, although wait, you can't really set a difficulty setting though into the game. You see, like something like that would be tied into a difficulty setting, but the way the game is and the fact that it's, an online game, everybody would just set it to easy and then get all the good loot, unless you made loot like loot rare, like rare loot even rarer to spawn on an easy setting. But this is what early access is for. I suppose they can always explore it. Host decides the difficulty at that point. Yeah. But that's what I mean. Like, I feel like any sort of slider, whether it's for graphics, the enemy AI, how difficult the game is, that's all going to be on the host side of things.
And both of those are things we can scale. Because in general, the further away they are from you, they decide less frequently, and their choices are a little bit limited. But
okay, that's interesting. So the further away they are, the dumber the AI is. And then as you get closer, I suppose that makes sense. That'll be a lot easier on systems to have it that way. Because what's happening off in the distance doesn't really matter. But again, I feel like the closer they are, the better they think. Yeah, that makes sense. And I feel like on maps like Mech Trenches, Underground Cemetery, Nexus Scrapyard, I think that's all great because you can only see so far because there are lots of walls, corridors, twists and turns. But when you get to maps like Ashen Mesa, Elephant Mausoleum, and you can see things off in the distance, that's when it then becomes a bit more, well, it's just one clump of soldiers standing next to another clump of soldiers and they're just shooting at each other. There's no sort of movement going on.
That's just if you're curious what's happening at a distance.
Who cares if Ruska and Eurasia are running into each other and singing Kumbaya in the distance when you get too close to... I mean, that's kind of what I'm talking about. They're just standing there, kicking around. If you don't see that, it doesn't matter. But if you're on Ashen Mesa and you're running across the open plain towards them and you just think, oh, they're not doing anything, then as you get closer, all hell fucking breaks loose.
And those are things we can play with.
In the future, when the game is in better condition, could we expect some comics or novels to be released like Warhammer 40k?
Yes, absolutely. Timeline on that, not sure. It's funny you said Warhammer. Well, we'll leave that one as a giant question mark.
That's cool.
But yeah,
that's already been asked.
Yeah, definitely.
It'd be funny
yeah,
the way you
we're
said.
Definitely looking at other ways to expand the lore for sure.
It would be funny,
I've
yeah.
actually been shooting the shit with Rail on some of that. I don't know if you guys have ever read Jeremiah Horowitz. Fucking sick. He did some of the art for that, but yeah, it's we're definitely excited about the future on that front.
Will hunter killers be expanded upon? Are there plans to further
And I was sort of brushed off that question saying that this has been asked before. I am very much looking forward to art books, graphic novels, animated shorts, whatever. Like, I absolutely love the world. It's just a question that's been asked half a dozen times.
develop the hunter killers for each faction, as well as tweaks to how they act or are called in?
150 fucking %. Yes. Yeah, definitely. No, we're looking, actually, shit. I mean, Jeff and I were talking about that this morning. But yeah, we're definitely looking at ways of expanding that, and also contextual based on action as well. So
Yeah.
certain things that you do that influence the factions negatively will generate a different result. And also, case in point, if an objective falls for one of the factions, then they might send in kill teams specifically to resolve that situation, whether you're involved or not, and you might get caught in the middle.
I love that.
Yeah,
Love
it's
that.
definitely stuff that works.
Yes,
You're doing great,
please.
Miles. I have not much to add to a lot of these. What do you say?
Maybe something killable for hunter killers on other. Yeah, so I think that's what he's saying there. So there's the potential that something happens on the map that you're not necessarily involved in, and a faction responds to that by sending in this special type of unit that sort of takes no prisoners, and you could get caught up in the crossfire there with that. Love that idea.
That guy right there, this corner over here, unless Mad moves our window frames on the final edit, which case I'll do this. This kid over here.
Hello. I enjoy the world and game, but I have a few questions regarding mechanics. The game is generally reliant upon stealth, yet it lacks some very important stealth mechanics,
Yes.
namely prone, distractions, and camouflage. Why can you not go prone and crawl? Why can you not throw a rock or noisemaker to distract on?
So with prone, I'm actually fine with there not being a prone in the game, because how the hell are you as Shaman or Scav Girl going to go prone with that rig on your back and then stand up? So I'm fine with there not being a prone. I'm quite happy at the moment with the crouch and sneak around that way. But yeah, camouflage, distractions, throwing rocks, things like that. Needs work. Needs to be put in.
Incoming patrol. Why can you not shroud your character or rig with camouflaging elements that would at least break up your profile or deflect heat and or other sensors? Why is there not a rig device to help you hide from a mech or drone sensing devices?
Hello as well. So yeah, I mean, if anything, some of these tools are definitely things that we have like early prototypes of, and some of them are more polished, than they're not polished. It was really just the calculus of figuring out like what made the most sense from like a balancing standpoint. And full transparency, one of the things that we wanted to get right before we start upending it and introducing a lot of additional variables was making sure that enemy awareness was where we wanted it to be, or at the very least functional enough for it to be like consistent, that it's like, okay, there's a cause and effect, within any given instance. That was something that we want, that's super important. Because yes, like throwing the rock and then the guy going over there, like, or gal or whatever the fuck, or robot or tank, it's definitely adorable, but it's not enough. So if we're gonna dig heavier into that, we want to make sure that it's in line. So for example, a character skill related to X that's also related to the rig system, that is also dovetailing into other components like faction relationships, etc. Like that's where we feel like there's the sweet spot where it's a lot of different elements coming together, and it's like the joy of like systemic gameplay, but it's also kind of like the nightmare, because we have to make sure that like a lot of interconnected pieces are working effectively together so that we can get the best results. So short answer, we're adding more stealth tools at some point, but it's not priority one for us at all right now.
Yeah, I think right now, one of the major things that Miles already talked about is we're getting the feedback to be improved and to be an actual like audit of what is happening in the game right now. And that's already made a huge difference, at least internally. I'll leave that to the eye of the beholder when you're playing it yourself to see what you think. But that made a big difference in terms of knowing what the game is doing. Another thing that I don't know if everyone knows, it was talked about, but like we have different stealth awareness factors. I roll my eyes because the word stealth always scares the hell out of me, because it's not like we have a light gem and the shadows matter more and everything. Like, we're not doing, thief granularity, Splinter Cell granularity, stealth mechanics. But like, take Gunhead, who has a freaking gun for a head. He is louder, for lack of a better term, and he will draw more aggro much more quickly, even if you're not shooting. Like, if you're standing there, that they'll notice a warbot and be like, that's a problem. So those deltas are something else we want to play with. But like right now, for like priority number one right now is to make sure the core is in a good spot and that all of the feedback is as we intend, which should be much better very soon.
100% completely agree with that from the point of view. So like, I want to see stealth elements put into the game. Absolutely. Especially when I'm playing solo. However, like, what is the purpose of like stealth mechanics? It's so that you are not seen by the NPCs, the enemies, the neutral characters on the map. What do you need for that? You need to have a good AI system in place. The AI needs a lot of work. So before any further work on the stealth system or ways to sneak about are implemented into the game, I would love to see improvements made to the AI. I think AI is on my priority list, is pretty much near the top at the moment. So they gave Gunhead a totem, basically, yes. I mean, it makes sense for Gunhead. I mean, will they explain that? It makes sense for Gunhead to be drawing more aggro towards it. But yeah, like, I think once they work on the AI some more and then implement some systems, some stealth systems into the game, you could easily make it so that Gunhead isn't drawing as much aggro as he would by default.
This is debated so much, and the vision of the game is the node that everything else has to fall into place too. I would really love if you could tell us what you want this game to feel like when you play it, what you want it to be. Community input is fantastic, and you really have blown us away with listening to us, but first and foremost, it's your vision that drew us here to begin with. Preamble aside, my question is, please tell us what kind of game you want the Forever Winter to be. What should it feel like to play, and what kind of audience do you want? This game is beautiful. Every time I drop into a map, I fall in love all over again. Thank you for creating such a beautiful thing. Its pre-alpha is awe-inspiring. Keep cooking.
Oh, thank you so much for
Grimdark,
the kind words. That's like probably like a 45-minute answer. I mean, I can give you like the creative director answer, but the crux of it is like there's so many games that kind of capture the power fantasy and like really deliver on that. So for us, it was like, I don't know, it was harder because you look at like the late 80s, early 90s science fiction, and we're talking, the movie Hardware, we're talking obviously Terminator,
Escape
we're
from New
talking
York.
like any heavy science fiction, right? Like the shit that was running around in those fictions and the just basically the terror of those environments, like survivability was basically zero. Right? Like you're basically a rat in a maze, and if you live to the next day, like that's a fucking blessing. And it's interesting too, because it's like for example, like one of the things that we're updating, and some people are gonna dig this, and some people are gonna be like, "Oh, you've broken everything! Oh my god!" But like for example, like some of the weapons that are like extremely powerful right now, we're actually integrating a more realistic reload for those. So you actually have to thumb the shells in. You actually have to snap like the whole like front assembly down and actually reload it properly. And that's going to mean that you're not necessarily going to be able to spam it, as quickly as possible. And so it becomes more of a tactical decision.
I like that.
What's nice about that is that actually dovetails it into, stuff like closer like Resident Evil and some of like the other, survival horror games that we absolutely love.
Yes.
Like, this is a decision.
Yes, please.
You brought a rocket
Big
launcher, it's going
W.
to have a halfway
Big
reload time,
W.
and that's going to leave you extremely vulnerable while you fuck with this weapon.
Yes. Thank you.
With, some of the new things that we're planning on integrating very shortly. There's definitely going to be like a very risk reward nature of it. So that was like one of the big components is making sure that like, for the most part, the players like feel like they're, still a scav. They're still in that fantastic period of like, early survival game where you're just like, fuck, man, I really have to struggle to basically collect, a few resources. And, as you become more proficient, then it's like, okay, cool. It's like even in, Cormac McCarthy's The Road, there was still an art to survival that the father and his son had kind of like gone into like the equivalent of like a fugue state where they basically are like, okay, these are the patterns, these are the rules. Like if you get caught, there's one round, like put the gun to your temple and pull the trigger, right? Like whatever the rules are, making sure that the stakes stay consistent. And we're actually, not afraid to rework a lot of our existing systems and, push it like even further. So it's one of those things where as long as it's in service to like, that fantasy, then I think it'll turn out really, really cool. I mean, it's that was kind of like the TLDR, super in a nutshell, vision. It's the long cut from Children of Men. It's basically like every dystopian nightmare jammed into the smallest possible space.
Yes.
And I know that like, of course the other end of that spectrum is once you level cap all of your weapons and you're like fully teched, you have all of your, strategies down, then, the stakes become a little bit lower. And we're looking at ways of increasing the stakes again, perhaps adjusting some of like the more contentious features to facilitate that as well. So that's a little bit of a spoiler, but yeah, I think it's gonna be cool.
So I know you're saying no myth. Hey, Evangelist. I don't know why I said that. Evangelist. Welcome. I love the fact that they are going to tweak about with the reload there, because at the moment, like I've reached the point, and I know many other people have, where you have become that guy, and the game is just a bit of more of a run and gun than a survival type game. So I think adding the idea of changing some of the reloading for some of the guns, making it more difficult. You haven't yet. Well, in some ways I'm envious of you. I do miss that sort of new game experience where you don't know. You don't really know what to do, how to survive. Should you engage this enemy? Should you sneak around? Should you wait? Whereas with, now I've got my USAS and I'm just like, yeah, just 20 shotgun shells to the face. Next. So I think changing that, with the implementation of some of the new enemies they're going to be bringing in, hopefully it pulls the rug from under us and we go back to being nothing more than a little puny scav trying to survive in this horrible, horrible world.
Two things that I've said a couple times, I don't even remember if I've said it in any of these, is misery loves company and choices have consequences. And like, absolutely all the touchdowns. It's funny when Miles was talking, I started thinking,
just bring more 20-round mags instead of ammo boxes. Well, I mean, yeah, like, well, yes, but that 20-round mag is going to run out at some point, and then you're going to have to reload. I mean, they could make it even like worse by like making it going down like the sort of I can only really think of it being done in Arma, but I know it's been done in other games where you have to keep track of what magazine has how much ammo in it. They could make it even worse by doing it that way. Oh, you reload when your mag has 7 bullets left. Well, now that one mag in your inventory has 7 bullets, so when you reload into that mag, you will only have 7 shots, rather than just capping it to maximum each time.
about weird things started popping in my head, like screamers, and I come in peace and like old sci-fi stuff. Even like I had my background in some of my Zoom meetings was Logan's Run, which in the beginning is this dystopian kind of nirvana where they kill you once you're 30, but then once you realize it's a bubbled city and outside is basically wasteland, the 70s sci-fi had that kind of hopelessness in a nutshell. I don't know what it was about the 70s, like maybe just like the hangover from the 60s, who knows, but like a lot of those touchdowns I really like even what was that movie where they were trapped with the Saturn, I think it was, where like all sorts of really cool, like, this isn't great but I can't look away. That's what I really enjoy about the game.
Definitely. And I mean, I think there's another piece to it, and this is, one of the elements that, we're starting to experiment more with as well. But, it's like the world basically said,
New scale Bagman can't fit bullets in a mag since he's too big. his hands are too big. He's got fat thumbs. He can't intricately load the ammo into his magazines.
in the table stakes, the world is going to be unbelievably harsh. It doesn't care whether you live or die, right? But on the flip side, if that is the case and those are the table stakes, then what are all like the really, really cool memories you're going to have, and what are the memories you're going to share with your homies in the wasteland, right? Which is very much the like, like the deck was stacked against us, but those were the battles I remember. And I think that's something that I think is very core to what we're trying to keep and maintain.
Would you ever consider having a voice of the wasteland type radio host who you could tune into in the base to learn about the state of the
That'd be
battlefield
cool.
and various lore tidbits? It would be nice to have a multiple channels for each faction that has their own host and faction specific information within the universe propaganda mixed in for some proper in-setting immersion.
So I feel like that is something like that is something to incorporate very late into development. So it's obviously not going to be on the radar in the meantime. What I would like to see though is before you go into a map, what's the current state of the battlefield? Is it going to be more controlled by Europa? Is it going to be more Eurasia? Is it going to be a nighttime map? I would like to see that sort of level of what is going on in the world outside rather than having somebody talk over a radio.
Hello,
I love
big
that idea.
boppers.
Yeah, well, it's Good Morning Vietnam, right? No, I love that idea. Or like, I think it was Rennick in like Killzone 2. Yeah, he had like mad rantings. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I would love that. Let me talk to Jason because I think
that's super cool.
Ideas on that front.
Okay,
well.
what?
Post-apoc DJ for sure could be sick. Like
The first thing-
it's definitely something that's come up. It's just getting it right. Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
No, the first thing that came into my head was the DJ from
Fallout 3?
the Warriors.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
That they actually did a hell of a nod to in the
I'll
very
stick it,
last John
3
Wick
Dog.
movie. Like, yeah, that's
Oh, yeah.
super cool.
Definitely. I mean that, and also,
beforehand, seeing the state will be a little too safe. Still got to be on your toes. Yeah, I'm mainly talking about. First of all, is it going to be a nighttime map? That should be obvious. You should know if you're going to be going into, a map that's being patrolled by a bunch of Mother Courages, cyborgs, and grabbers. But I'm not necessarily talking about what exact troops are there, but I'm thinking more like, at the moment, this area is held more by this faction, so you're more likely to see these types of units rather than this is exactly what it's going to be like. Like with Lethal Company, with Rain, Storm, Fog, and Eclipse, yeah. Like I played Lethal Company when it first came out, but I could just not get anybody else to play it with me. And I'm still pushing for it. I think I'd be able to get Matt Loeb to stream it with me, but I'm trying to get some of my other mates as well. I've recently managed to get them into Enshrouded, which is good. That's a lot of fun. We've got our own server there, but I need to get people into Lethal Company as well, and also more people into Forever Winter. But I'm happy to have people wait a bit longer to get into Forever Winter, considering the current state of it. So you want easier cigarettes, only get the exact... You'll give it away. You'll give it away. I would like a map based around a cigarette factory.
Oh, Spec Ops as well was
Yeah.
fantastic for that. So yeah, no, definitely, put it on the list.
Will we see a nighttime map for Frozen Swamp in the future? I really like the bluish coldness of the map, but can't stop thinking about how it would feel at night. Perhaps it would turn into a burning battleground between the thieves and the remaining European units, or a breeding ground for grabbers. My little sadistic heart hopes for 5 to 6 grabbers spread out on the swamp floor, the pipes being the only safe way to traverse from one side to the other. Maybe some panicking thieves are stuck in the FOB as well.
Yes.
Love your work and can't wait to see what you're cooking up next.
Thank you so much.
I kind of like that idea.
Yes. Short answer to that is yes.
Okay.
One of our homies already did the
No,
inviting
again,
pass
no.
for that, and Ludo already set up a lot of the encounters. So yeah, that's
No, right, because just imagine you go into a nighttime frozen swamp map. You've got the grabbers, the mother courages, you know, creeping around in the fog. You're up in the injection well or up high, looking down on this, and you can see like the muzzle flashes of the water thieves trying to get away from them, but they're harvesting. They're like picking them up and harvesting them. That would be amazing. Watch out, boys! The grabbers are in ruts.
I can't wait as well. I'm definitely in the same boat.
With Gunhead being released and getting to get a look into what is the first really unique ability/tool on a character, I'm wondering if we see more of such things on each character. I'd really love to
Please.
see more special abilities capable of being uniquely utilized by
Yes.
the amazing cast
Drones-
of scabs we
drones
have.
with
Something
Shaman,
like
please.
Maskman doing something unique using his mask. Really anything that can help each character stand out more, just as Gunhead does currently.
100%.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, we've talked in previous chats about like the skill tree and what we really want that to be, and even I mean that's just the tip of the iceberg. Yeah, all that kind of stuff absolutely is coming. If the Gunhead head is essentially using similar systems to like the side guns on the Exos, just under your control. So we always try to have an eye on reusability, so that we can make new code stuff and all of the content is being used in interesting ways. But yeah, 100%. Like, I really want every one of the characters to stand out with verbs or interactions or abilities they can do, and not just like passive buffs. So I'm
For
glad
sure.
you're having fun with Gunhead.
Jeff's fucking old document is like 30 pages long. It's what he calls a Rolls Royce thing. I'm almost halfway tempted to do like a fucking CIA redacted like black line for all the fucking crazy shit that we wanted to include at one point or another. So yeah, short answer, we definitely want to expand on the unique abilities of these characters. I think it's going to be cool. See?
Anything else you want to say since we haven't done a Q&A in quite a bit of time?
Yeah, no, I mean, if anything, apologies for like the impression of radio silence. That
Next
just means that the
update
team is on the
going to
grind, but also remembering that it was only a couple weeks since our last drop. And we are responding heavily to a lot of the feedback that we got and trying to improve a lot of the core components. Like, if anything, this immediate push is more quality of life focused. Mad put a lot of these details out in the newsletter, but just in the off chance you didn't get a chance to scope that out, it's a lot of foundational components, making sure that they're like crispy. Like, looting got a major improvement.
Yep.
Gunplay definitely got a major improvement. I think there's going to be like some things that are more balanced, like enemy AI awareness definitely got hit hard. Spawning on top of people, I get fucking annoyed by that as well. So Ludo has done a great job at cleaning that up. But I mean, he's one man. So if anything, like, it's, what was it? Those old propaganda things, like, if you see like a fucking spy, call it out, right? Like, it's
If you
very
see
much
something,
that.
say something.
Exactly. So case in point, like, I think there's a new channel in the Discord. If you guys have like a map in particular or a section in particular, like for me, like in Ashen, like I take that route kind of like through the shanty stacks and kind of navigate my way through like the major like killing field and then cross through the outpost. I would usually run into like a squad of like Eurasia, like medium tier dudes, and they just like pop in sometimes. And it's like really, really tedious, especially when they're like right next to
The
you.
Eurasians in that shanty
If
town.
anything, a lot of that's been cleaned up, but that's
Sweet.
like, this is my one experience. The more data we have on that, the cleaner we can make it for everyone. So rock and roll.
Awesome. Beautiful. I'm looking forward to the next update. They're hanging those posters in our office too. See something, say something. It's like them on the trains in this country. It's always Like, if you see something, report it. See it, say it, sorted. If you see something that doesn't look right, please contact Transport Police on... I can't remember what the number is now, but that's just constantly going off. See it, say it, sorted. Right. Okay, that was good. I'm looking forward to the next update. See it, say it, sod it. I feel that's more accurate, I suppose. But yeah, that was really good. That's put me right in the mood for the next update on this. No idea when it'll be. Hopefully soon, because I am getting to that point now in the game where or I'm just not playing it as much because I'm just doing the same thing. There's nothing new for me to really do, which is probably why I ran some Underground Cemetery just before this. You're afraid for the updates now. Embrace it. You're supposed to be afraid in this game. Embrace it. Right, I'm going to take a quick break. I'll run some ads. I'll be back to play some more Forever Winter.